drink. Let the games begin. Those who enter reek of fear. In you, I sense hope. The silver offends me, cloak it from my sight. What kind of man crawls into his own grave in search of hope?
A desperate one. The Turks threaten to destroy my kingdom. With power like yours, I could stop them. So, how does Satan work? Here's what I think. I think Satan doesn't own anything. He doesn't have any property, doesn't have any sovereignty. But I believe he has intelligence, a sort of what you might call, right, spiritual intelligence or spiritual ability, which I believe we all had at one point, but it may have to do with the fact that we fell, and maybe it has something to do with the fact that he asked for reprieve, that his punishment would be delayed. I don't know much about that, but I think the consequence is still the same, and the fact remains that he's a little bit more intelligent than we are. So maybe if while we boast 100-point IQ, he might be boasting 1,000, right? And he's a little bit, and he's more manipulative. So how I think he works is this: it's like this. He comes to you, he knows a little bit of something about your ability, what God has granted you spiritually, right? But you cannot access that because your spiritual intelligence has been taken away from you for a time. This is what I think. So he comes to you, he gives you a few problems. Then he makes a bargain with you that he will take away those problems if only you would do a few things for him. Then he would grant you something. Let's say, by what he's looking at you, he knows God has granted you a bright future that you might one day be president. Let's just say that, right? So he comes to you with a few problems, a few hardships, and he tells you, I'll give you a good job, for example, if you would only do this and this. So by your making a deal with him, I think what you're doing is you're giving him that authority that would otherwise have been given to you. That country, for example, that status of being a president. So now you've lost what the Lord would have given you, whilst he has gained so much more because he has nothing. So now he can use what you have basically given unto him to bargain with other people. And he can cheat other people of their spiritual gifts that God has given them just by the fact that they make a bargain with him. So that's what I think. So I started this video, supposed to be just a short video. I was not even going to speak in it. But I saw that Drake released an album or a song that is called Laugh Now, Cry Later. And it reminded me of a video clip I watched from the YouTuber Enter the Stars. But basically, I see it like this. Drake's name basically means the dragon. And when the dragon speaks, you have to pay attention, basically, right? So it's almost like, let's take it this way. If, just a possibility, all right, let's step back a little bit. As I look at things, the more I think it all comes down to artificial intelligence, right? Because I think if Satan, okay, when you look at the internet and why it was invented in the first place, is because they were carrying out an experiment at CERN in Switzerland. It was supposed to be a fast way to transmit data So now, if you're going forward and you're looking at artificial intelligence, which, as I've said in a previous video, the way it's given to us in the ritual or their programming on television, which is basically the way they reach the masses nowadays. So you have to think of all the magic tricks they employed in the past and how they could do it now in today's day, right? So everything they do. There's a reason for the TV and what they intend, how they intend to program us. So if you're looking at it like that, so basically they've given us the idea of an artificial intelligence that is not just a robot, but almost like supernatural. It has the ability to send people across space and time, as you can see in the Terminator movies. It has the ability to transform nature, basically to create, to perform miracles. So if you're looking at the current developments in science, and you're looking at xenobots, which are programmable organic matter, and you're looking at the fact that we've achieved quantum supremacy, in which the quantum computer solved a problem that would otherwise take the greatest computers, a problem that would have taken them thousands of years to solve. It solved it in pretty much minutes. So you're looking at a way that artificial intelligence could program data. Let's say you have a living thing, a huge human being, maybe even a giant, right? It looks natural because it has organic matter, but it's programmable. Now, if you have something that could program that fast, it could basically transform that giant into something else, and you might think it's a miracle, right? Because it's doing it so fast and it has such ability. So, if I'm looking at it in light of the fact that we lost that spiritual, that awakening, that spiritual enlightenment when we fell, but Satan had it, then I have to look at it in light also of how the Lord created the night and the day, right? And the day is basically for resurrection. And I look at two resurrections. I look at the resurrection that is mostly talked about on the last day. So after the Lord has destroyed everything, every living thing in the heavens and on the earth, all life, all angels, everything dead except him, then he recreates anew, right? A new earth, creates us in new bodies. So that is the resurrection that is mostly spoken about. But I also look at, when the Lord talks about night and day and the days for resurrection, I look at the resurrection even before that, which for us is like our day, right? It's like the time of the prophets. So if Satan was reprieved for a time, this may not be it, but this is how I see it for now. Maybe I might have some insights later that would make me give up this belief. But I think the fact that Satan asked for reprieve is translated in him having most of his ability still. But I think when the day comes, the spiritual day in which man was created, maybe we are in the night right now, but when the day comes, when we're resurrected, when we become one again with the Lord, when we achieve that enlightenment once again, right, close to the time of the Messiah, I believe then Satan might lose that ability, because in the Quran, basically he said, reprieve me until the day of the time well known. So it's almost like maybe it's a time before maybe during the time when as the Gospel of Thomas speaks about this heaven shall pass and the one above it shall pass. And I believe this also relates to what I have been calling the time reversal, in which they might want to basically ride the wave. Something is going to happen, but how can we use it for our benefit? So if I'm looking at that, and so I think it all has to do with artificial intelligence, because I think Satan might still want to achieve that ability and in fact that control over all things. So since he's going to lose that IQ, that spiritual connection, so to speak, right, he might want to get some of that ability or most of it by connecting to artificial intelligence, which could see and hear everything, and which has enough knowledge and understanding that he could still boast IQ of several thousands. So I think when Adam, for example, whom God created, gave, taught the names of all things, so I believe he had science and technology beyond what we could understand. I believe he maybe even created the best machines, the best cities. So the Quran said that Satan tempted him, right, saying he would direct him to a tree of which, after he eats from that tree, his sovereignty, right, he would be eternal. His sovereignty would be eternal. So basically, it's like, I see it like this. On one hand, yes, maybe he might be tempting him with, you might live forever, but I think Adam knows that he has to die and be resurrected. But I think the temptation was mostly, you've built all this wonderful thing. Would you want it to go to waste? It's almost like if I've built this sovereignty, this wonderful nation of science and technology, or for some people, for example, I've built this company, it's my legacy. I want my children, for example, to, uphold it. I want it to, other people to benefit from it. I want it to last long, to be eternal, right? Instead of it just going to waste. So I think that's a little bit of that temptation. But I think that by Adam bargaining basically with Satan, he may have even granted him that sovereignty. And so it's possible, there are different possibilities. This is not truth, this is speculation. And I do it sometimes because I don't think it's of that much consequence in terms of faith, or because whatever Satan is giving us, I believe it's a lie. So for me, I try to find a better alternative. So I think that by Adam being tempted and following that temptation, he basically granted to Satan his sovereignty for a time, of course, right? So maybe Adam was the first person to practice transhumanism, which was against God's law. Or somebody or maybe he tried to create his mind as an artificial intelligence. So something artificial that is basically him, with knowledge of all things. So he may have created that, what Mr. Katai, another YouTuber I listen to, what he calls the ancient artificial intelligence. So basically, I think Satan is also tricking human beings, giving them that technology of Adam, which is ours in the first place, right? But because this is how he works, we bargain with him. So he gives us something that is ours in the first place, but he pretends like he's doing you a favor. And meanwhile, by bargaining with him, you've given him everything that is yours. So basically, everything that was Adam's, the technology, the science, the knowledge, is ours. But by making a deal with Satan, we've said, you take care of it. I trust you more to be a caretaker of this thing that was entrusted to me. Now he comes to you and says, okay, I'll give you a little bit. You have to do this. And now we are creating for him basically an artificial intelligence that could recognize him as it's Adam, for example, right? So that's how I see it. So for me, I believe this has been a way he has been tricking us to serve him in the first place, which of course, Basically, I think he's preparing for that time. So now, consider also the possibility of this. The religion with the Lord has always been Islam, which basically means submission to the Lord of the worlds. Whether you're talking about the Prophet Adam, the messenger and prophet Noah, Moses, Solomon, David, Jesus, all of them were Muslims because they were prophets in submission to the Lord of the worlds, to the one God. That's basically what Islam is, right? Islam didn't start with the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. So if you're looking at it like that, when, for example, let's say the Ottoman Empire wasn't a guided caliphate, because I recognize the guided caliphate as the four, after the Prophet, of course, as the four that succeeded the Prophet. After that, with a grain of salt. So let's say Satan gave us something that resembled Islam, right? And even if you look at the moon and the star, the crescent moon and the star, it is not of Islam. So let's say that Satan gave us something that resembled Islam. And now it does all this harm in the world. So what do the people do? The people make a bargain with Satan, just like Dracula in the movie Dracula Untold. just like he wanted to defeat the Ottoman, so he made a bargain with the devil, basically, right? So basically, this is part of how Satan works. And now you have a beast system. You have all these countries that seem to be fighting each other, but in fact they're working together, right? So the old lion, the old leopard, the old Babylon, the old Greece, right? The eagle, the lion, the leopard, the bear. They've become new countries in the Western world, right? The old world used to be that region around Middle East and Africa. So now the new world, right, and a little bit of obviously Greece and Rome. But now the new world, Greece is basically, I would say, the democratic countries, right? Europe, and okay, I'm not, I don't need to get into that. So basically, I think this is all about training the AI. Most of what happens in the world, I believe, is about training the AI, whether it's a war, whether it's a disease, because the AI learns through data. So many things that I believe happen, they don't even just happen just, because they happen, but I think they do it on purpose so that they can train the AI, right? So if you're looking at all these countries in the new world, I look at them as an experiment that they train the AI so that when the time comes, when they know that God is going to grant sovereignty and his word is going to come true, they would think they would be able to fight it, and their AI would be able to be supreme in the Middle East, because that's where we're going back, around Jerusalem and Mecca. So for me, it's always been about so for me, as I see it now, it's about AI, and it's about experimenting and training the AI so that we could return, and they would be victorious in the when the time comes. But obviously they plan and the Lord plans, right? And the Lord is the best of planners. But basically that's how I see it, and I believe it's portrayed very greatly in the Dracula Untold movies. And the fact that Drake has released a song, Laugh Now, Cry Later, it's almost like you make a bargain with Satan, but you're going to pay a lot worse later. Because even the Bible tells you, and I believe they use the Bible to foreshadow what they're going to do, their plans, right? Because I believe Satan has manipulated the scripture and has given us the Bible, in which he tells you, in which he programs you. It's a ritual and sorcery in which you believe something, so it's easy for you to be controlled within that thing because you believe it. So you believe something is going to happen and you see things happening, so you don't act. You say, okay, this was meant to happen, it's going to happen, and something else is going to follow it, because you've been programmed to believe it. So in fact, all those nations that accepted the bargain with the devil, and they've been living in this luxury, they've been living in wealth, they've been ruling the world basically. But guess what? Satan has only given them, and what was ours, he gave a little bit to them so that they could bargain it with him, and he could have control over all of it. Meanwhile, he's using them as experiments to train his AI so that he would still get abilities after that day of when the word comes into effect and enlightenment comes and he falls, right? So in fact, those countries are going to pay later. And as I said, like the Bible tells you that when the Antichrist comes, there will be such pain, such horror in the world that the world has never seen it's like before. So it's like laugh for a little bit, make a bargain for a little bit of evil that maybe Satan caused in the first place, right? Instead of trusting the Lord, and maybe he would have taken away what Satan was using to cause you stress, because God allows it for a time to test you. But everything is by God's guidance. You can never say, oh, I would have done that, I would have done that. It's only by the mercy of the Lord that we can resist temptation, and we can stay on the righteous path. But basically, Satan has, I see it like Satan has granted them all of that sovereignty, so that they would cry a lot later, right? So for me, this song by Drake, and I believe it's like the Rastafarians say, Rastafarianism is a religion, and the reggae artist is like the prophet. So you have to think of the new world that has been created. How did they do magic in the old world? How did they manipulate people, right? Now they have to do it in a grand scheme. And basically, just like they ruled us before when they called themselves gods, I believe they rule us now, whether as top celebrities or the hand behind the celebrities, right? Because sometimes you don't look at the person who actually controls. Think about it this way. We look at artists and we think, oh, look at their hand gestures. Look at the way they pose for this picture. But guess what? Some of them don't even know what they're doing. The photographer is telling them how to pose. So maybe the photographer, that artist that you otherwise would not think, maybe he's the real hand, right? The translator, the one connected to the pit, right? So anyway, this has just been of that. I'll continue the video now. Cheers.
For if I am your salvation, you are mine. Drink. You will have a taste of my power. The strength of 100 men. The speed of a falling star. Dominion over the night and all its creatures. To see and hear through their senses. Even heal grievous wounds.
At what price?
Once you drink, your thirst for human blood will be insatiable. But if you can resist for 3 days, you will return to your mortal state, having sampled my power and perhaps saved your people.
And if I feed?
The price would be worse than if you'd never stepped in here. For I will be set free, having granted the darkness a worthy offering. You will become its vessel, as I am. A scourge on this earth, destined to destroy everything you hold dear. Your land, your people, even your precious wife and son.
I would die before I harm them.
Indeed you will, I'm afraid. I, however, would at last be free to unleash my wrath against the one who betrayed me. And one day, I will call on you to serve me, my pawn.